Hey book lovers, I'm Elise and today we're going to talk about my most disappointing reads of 2023. To be clear, this is not my worst reads of 2023. That is going to be in another video. These are the books that I read this year that I had pretty high hopes for and was unfortunately pretty disappointed. They're not bad books. I still enjoyed my time reading them. It's just, I had a standard for them and they failed to meet it. I'm gonna go through these in the order that I read them this year. The first of which is The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. This is a thriller about, It's like I read it, I know I read it, and I remember it, but I don't remember it. This was my third thriller by Rachel Hawkins, and The Villa is still my least favorite. I don't know what happened with that one. There were dual timelines. It took place at an Italian villa. There's a story within a story. There's a frenemy situation. For whatever reason, it did not work for me. The ending was absolutely ridiculous, and I was extremely disappointed with this book. Next is another one that really hurt my heart, and that is All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. I loved A Flicker in the Dark. I flew through it. It was 5 stars. It was amazing. This book just wasn't. I actually vlogged my experience. I read 5 Book of the Month thrillers in 5 days. I don't know, it didn't do it for me. And there was even there's one specific thing that happened in this book that just, I don't know, it really got to me. It made me cry. I was crying in the vlog. I don't know. I didn't like it. It's about a child that goes missing and the mom hasn't really slept and a year has gone by and she's still trying to figure things out. So I just think maybe that storyline is not for me, especially being a mom. It is really hard to read books where there are missing children because I could not imagine being in that situation. I would absolutely go insane. That one was a huge bummer for me. I should probably tell you what I rated these two. The Villa was 3 stars and All the Dangerous Things was also 3 stars. Next is In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. I've only read 2 books by TJ Klune, this one as well as Under the Whispering Door. I loved Under the Whispering Door. Holy cow, did I love that book. The found family in that book was amazing. Just the overall message in the book, the story, the characters, I loved everything about it. So naturally, I had very high hopes going into In the Lives of Puppets. It is said to be a Pinocchio retelling. I did not get Pinocchio. First of all, I got the movie Robots. It's an animated children's film, probably like 10 or 15 years old. Ewan McGregor voices the main character. Robin Williams voices a character. Amanda Bynes voices a character. It's a great movie, but that's what I got from this book. And I did hear somebody else mention something about feeling Wizard of Oz vibes as well, and I see that too. What I don't see is Pinocchio. The other thing too is it is funny, but I feel like it was trying too hard because the sexual innuendos in this book are so strong, it got very cringy. Like, it made me uncomfortable. Huge letdown. The next bummer on this list is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I used to think I love Riley Sager, but there's only 2 books of his that I would say that I actually love, and that is Home Before Dark and The House Across the Lake. All the other ones are just okay. Because so many people did not like The House Across the Lake, and then I think the release before that was Survive the Night, there were a lot of people hyping up The Only One Left, and it did sound really good. Maybe I was suffering from the book being overhyped, but either way, it's not what I expected, and I wasn't impressed. I wasn't impressed with the story. Nothing surprised me. I mean, yes, there are twists. Yes, there are things that you don't see coming. However, they didn't surprise me. That one, oh, I don't even think I told you In the Lives of Puppets. I rated that one 3 stars, and The Only One Left I also rated 3 stars. The next one I also rated 3 stars, and that is The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. I do like Kristen Hanna's writing. I've read almost all of her books. She was a favorite author of mine when I first really got back into reading. Lately, a lot of her newer releases are historical fiction, and I did really enjoy The Nightingale. I really enjoyed The Great Alone. I was expecting really good things out of The Four Winds, but I did put off reading it, and I think maybe it was just because the story didn't sound like something I would enjoy. It takes place during the Depression, during the Dust Bowl era in America, you know, before farmers knew that they had to let their land rest, otherwise it would just be completely depleted of nutrients. I think just like the time period wasn't something I was really into, but the writing was still good. However, the events that took place in this book, it didn't make sense. And I don't want to tell you too much about my issues with it because I don't want to spoil anything, but it seemed by the end, everything that the characters went through seemed incredibly pointless. Like they went through all of that suffering for nothing. The next one I rated 2 stars, and that is Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna McGuire. I've been hearing about this novella series for a long time. Everybody talks about it. Everyone on Bookstagram, everyone on BookTube talks about this series and how amazing it is. So naturally I had it in my head how these books were going to be. I thought it was supposed to be like a cozy little fantasy found family type situation. It's not. This is dark. It seemed to me like the events of the first book happen after the events of some of the later books. I don't know. I don't honestly know because I haven't read it and I'm probably not going to. I'm like, if I know what's gonna happen and how these characters are gonna end up, why do I want to read anything more about them? So that was a pretty big letdown because I had myself convinced that I was going to love these books and they were all going to be 5 stars and I'd be part of the cool kids in loving this series, but I don't, and I will not be reading any further. The next book, which I rated, I think I really honestly contemplated rating this book 2 stars, but I think I landed on 3, and that book is Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead. I loved In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. I loved The Last Housewife. What was this book? This book, okay, first of all, the summary is incredibly misleading. You're led to believe that this is a book about vampires and dark, mysterious men. I don't know. The main character, she's incredibly sheltered and she's incredibly naive. Makes sense for her character because, you know, of her background. She's convinced that her childhood best friend slash love interest is a vampire, a la Edward from Twilight, because she found a copy of Twilight and read it and apparently could not tell the difference between fact and fiction. This book made me laugh, and not in a good way. It sounds like this book should be on my worst books of 2023 list, but despite that craziness, it was still well written. I still was interested in what was going on, still read it to the end. The ending was also completely ridiculous. Not the worst book I've read all year, but definitely a huge disappointment compared to the other 2 thrillers by Ashley Winstead that I loved. And the final book on this list may be very surprising. That is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Having this book on this list is very misleading because I still rated this 5 stars. But compared to Fourth Wing, it just wasn't as good. And I know a lot of people have said that. It dragged in places. I feel like it maybe lost focus a little bit. Like we have this main storyline, but then in the middle it's like we kind of go off on tangents a little bit. And it wasn't as good. I don't know what I would have done differently if I were Rebecca Yarros. Maybe nothing, I don't know. And this book did take me a little bit to get through. I read Fourth Wing twice this year and I flew through it both times. It was amazing, I ate it up. This one was just a little bit harder to get through. But like I said, despite that, it was still 5 stars. Certainly not anywhere near being a bad book. I was a little bit disappointed. There we have it, friends. Those are the most disappointing books that I read this year. Let me know if you were also disappointed in any of these books. And if not, what was your most disappointing read this year? I'd like to know. Please remember to like and subscribe, and until next time, bye.